fruit of your labor. Blessings and prosperity will be yours, says Psalms 128:2. Good morning and welcome to Tandem Radio. This is your host, Glenn DeLakian, with the good news on business. We're here every Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the Bridge FM and streaming live on tandemradio.com. And if you're listening for the first time, welcome. We're excited to have you. And whether you listen through the internet around the country or around the globe, or whether you're listening to the FM radio stations of Bridge FM, we love hearing from you. So feel free to drop us a line at info@tandemradio.com. That's info at tandemradio.com anytime you'd like to drop us some information. But welcome, and we're excited to talk to you today about business and the good news on business. Our show has two simple themes each week. Number one is God put scriptures on our hearts that relate to a subtitle that we usually address the show as. And those scriptures are there to help us realize that God's Word is so important in every aspect of our life. Not just what we do at church, but what we do at work as well. And since we all spend so much time at work, whether we're employed or whether we own a business, or whether we're trying to own a business or do both, we spend a lot of times in thought and work and deed. And we need to remember that God wants to be a part of that as well. And because of that, we can dig deeply into the scripture and find that God has words of wisdom for even for your day-to-day work life. So hopefully what we'll do today is point you in that direction and let you realize that God has plenty of scriptures that can help you to profit in your business. And secondarily, we bring in different guests from different walks of life. And what we do with those guests is we do our best to see if we can glean some nuggets from them that you can use practically in your business come Monday morning. And they may be on a variety of topics, but the idea is that these are Christian business owners that have found their walk with God has led them into business ownership, and we hope that we can get some of that success from them and get it out to you in the words of wisdom that you can use as a practical aspect of your business. So before we go any further, let's start with the top of our list, and that is the scriptures that God put on my heart for this week's show. The theme for today's show is gifts to glorify God. First scripture is Exodus 35, 31, 32. And he has filled him with the Spirit of God, with wisdom, with understanding, with knowledge, and with all kinds of skills to make artistic designs for work in gold, silver, and bronze. Romans 12:6. We have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophecy in accordance with your faith. With that said, our guest today is Josh Street, who's a freelance artist who provides professional services in graphic design and photography and video production. And we're going to talk to Josh about the theme of gifts to glorify God. So good morning, Josh, and welcome.
Good morning, Glenn. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. Josh, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am a freelance, as you said, graphic designer, photographer. I do video as well. I'm out of Marlton, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing that ever since college, really, where I majored in design and illustration. And I provide services to churches, regular businesses, individuals, all types of people who need to make their business look better,
right,
and to become more profitable, ultimately.
Now, I just want to digress for a second. Your wife was on our show, I think, about a year ago. How's she doing?
She's doing great. She really enjoyed being on your show, and she's an artist as well, just like me. And it's really helps to have a partner who understands that side of the business. And she's always my second eye. Anything I do gets put through my wife. So it's great to have somebody to support you, to be a great backbone in your business with you.
It's interesting. I think of two artists in the same house. You know, it's kind of like I always thought opposites attract. I know my wife and I, she's artsy and I'm not, and it kind of evens out. You know, how does that work out for you?
You know, that's an interesting question because having said what I said when she's my second eye, well, sometimes I don't always like what the second eye has to say, and so I have to step back and take a second and think. All right, well, God put her here for me to help me out with this.
Right.
She's, no matter what I think I might have done, it may be better. And
right,
she gives me ideas and ways sometimes to make it look better when I don't think it is. So I have to readjust my attitude and thinking about it sometimes.
There you go. Well, God tells us husbands love your wives. And we'll leave it at that. Anyway, moving along. So let's start with you a little bit more. Why a career in graphic arts?
Well, ever since I was a kid, I kind of knew this is where I was going to go when kids were asking me to draw all the cartoons on their book covers in school. And I felt that as I grew older, this was the direction God was leading me. It was a talent that God gave me. I feel very strongly about using the talents we're given and the abilities we're given to bring Him glory. And if this is something He's given me to use, then why sit on it?
Right.
I do have abilities in other areas, but this is something I'm passionate about, something that brings me joy. And I think that when you're passionate about something and it brings you joy, you should pursue it. You should do it. And even if there's a lot of obstacles in the way, obstacles are always going to come up. And especially when it's something you're passionate about, it may be hard to get into that. But it's something that it's worth following it because happiness is attained that way. As opposed to, going to work, sitting in your cubicle every day, something you hate doing.
Right.
It's not exactly beneficial for you in many different ways.
Now, you've taken that gift from God, your graphic arts ability and that artsy concept, and you've turned it into a business. But graphic arts, how does that translate into photography and video? Typically I think of those as two different things.
Oh, they are two different things. But as I was in my business, as I was doing different projects, I realized, I needed photography. And I've always done photography, but not on a professional level. And instead of going out and hiring photographers at an exorbitant rate that for myself wasn't profitable for myself, I really upped my game, studied photography, I dove into it. I would watch as much as I can, read as much as I could, purchase the equipment, obviously. So I felt it was a necessary thing for me to do to take my business further. And it really has, and I actually really enjoy it too. So it's not like it's something I had to do that I hated to do, but it's something I really enjoy.
Right. And I think that's an important lesson for entrepreneurs, that at times you have to constantly be looking at your business to see, are there areas to explore that are outside your main core business. I mean, I'm a big believer, keep the main thing the main thing.
Right.
But in true entrepreneurship, you have to have some vision and look outside the purview while constantly asking God, where do you want me to go? Because God, hey, He may change your direction. You never know, So by being receptive to that and open-minded to that, I'm glad you mentioned digging into that and adding that to what you do. I think it's so important to be that diverse. What type of opportunities are there for artists? I mean, you see photography, you see graphic arts. Everybody's heard the term starving artist. What type of opportunities are you finding out there?
Well, there's all type of opportunities. I mean, if you want to go into movies, if you want to go into editing for a digital production house, there's companies that all have art departments. Every major company, corporations, they all have somebody they need to do this. So I talk to a lot of kids. I've gone into high schools and talked to kids who are in art, and I tell them what I do, tell them what other possibilities out there. Because, that is a thing they hear, the starving artist. Nobody wants to be painting in their garage and, losing money. But there's plenty out there. There's graphics, there's fine art, there's even... I have a friend who's an illustrator for a police station, does sketch artists, and he does very well. I mean, you have to have a certain knack and ability, but there's many different avenues you can take, and I know a lot of art teachers as well.
Now, relative to art, photography, video, I mean, it's a business, and I know you treat it as business, but it takes some unique skills in there. I mean, people have to have a bent to be artistic, right?
Yes.
Or have an artistic eye, as they say. With that in mind, God gave you those gifts. How else is God impacting, or how else, I should say, is your faith impacting what you're doing on a daily basis?
That's a great question. I don't, at this point, really advertise all that much. A lot of my stuff is word by mouth. There's been times where I haven't gotten enough business to pay the bills at a certain point. Just last year, I was running low in business. I said, God, I need something next week. I need to pay these bills. I'm going to have faith and trust that this is going to happen, and you're going to provide this for me. Within 2 weeks, I had so much stuff coming in, I had to turn stuff down. That sounds like a cliche church story, but it's true. It really happens, and having faith that God will provide your needs and believing that is very important.
Well, Scripture says, it's one of my favorite scriptures, he who goes out with seed to sow, he who goes out weeping with seed to sow, comes back with songs of joy, carrying sheaves with them. And it's funny you mention that, because I see that a lot of times. People, when they get in a struggle or sales are down or there's a slump, they can certainly look inward. If you look upward, and that's the point here, if you look upward, there's all types of opportunities that could come your way.
Right.
Whether they're from your activity or from God just saying, hey, look, I'm going to make that phone ring right now. I mean, He can do it either way. But one thing I learned a long time ago, you can't steer a parked car.
Right.
So you got to get out there and do something. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Let's talk about the tools of your trade, graphic arts and so forth. Now, this is a big topic, so I don't want to get into that too deeply. I want to save that actually for the second half because
Right.
we're coming up on a break. I want to talk about things like the tools of your trade and what about the business side of what you do, meaning, you have these technology, this artsy stuff, but what about the nuts and bolts business side and some other things that we'll talk about right after the break. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Great. You listen to Tandem Radio. This is your host, Glenn DeLakian, here every Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And don't forget, the next hour after us is also Tandem Radio programming, where we have people like Dr. Prudian and Frank Congelosi and Steve Vorius, who will bring you words of wisdom that also integrate God's wisdom and scriptures into what they teach on their show, whether it has to do with health, finance, or business management. Those guys continue the theme of the good news on business right here on the Bridge FM. And again, we're on every Saturday morning. Don't forget, streaming live at tandemradio.com. We'd love to hear from you at info@tandemradio.com. That's info@tandemradio.com. Feel free to drop us a line. Let us know if there's a theme you'd like us to talk about, or you have a question about your business, or you'd like us to pray for you. We'd love to do that. It's always good to hear from you. And we can hear from you on Facebook too. Just go on our Facebook page, Tandem Radio. Just go right on Facebook, type in Tandem Radio. We'll pop up. Like us, send us a message. Let us know how you think about the show and if there's anything we can help you with relative to business. We'll be right back after this break. We got a lot more to talk about with Josh Street here on Tandem Radio, the good news on business. Welcome back. This is your host, Glenn DeLakian, on Tandem Radio, the good news on business. And our theme today is gifts to glorify God. And as we do each week, our goal is to help you see that God's scriptures can pertain directly to what you do every day at work. Exodus 35:31-32. And he has filled him with the Spirit of God, with wisdom, with understanding, with knowledge, and with all kinds of skills to make artistic designs for work in gold, silver, and bronze. This was talking about a workman that was being sent in to build and develop all types of silver, gold, and bronze things for God's glory. And just showing again how God fills you with the Spirit of God to give you the wisdom, understanding, and knowledge of all kinds of skills. And Romans 12:6, we have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophecy in accordance with your faith. So important to realize that God gives you those gifts, and he wants you not only to have those gifts, but to use those gifts for his glory. And we don't put a lamp under a bushel, right? We raise it high on a lampstand. And same with our gifts. We need to be out there, and especially for entrepreneurs, it is so important for people to know what we do and how well we do it. And God gave you those gifts for a reason, to glorify him. And I hope and pray that in everything you do with your business, with your work, personal life, that your goal is to glorify God in all the things that you do. With that said, we're sitting today with Josh Street, who is a freelance artist who provides professional services in graphic design, photography, and video production. Josh, good morning and welcome back.
Thanks.
Josh, what's the name of your company?
Josh Street Design. You can
Okay.
see it on joshstreetdesign.com.
Great, joshstreetdesign.com. And there'll be a link to joshstreetdesign.com on tandemradio.com, so feel free to check that out and you can connect with Josh there. So Josh, we were talking about a whole variety of things. Let's give our audience a little taste about what it is that you actually do, but from the standpoint of the finished product. What are some of the unique projects you've worked on?
I've worked all kind of stuff from, if you've ever heard of the Angel Tree Ministry, I do their annual production that goes out to all the radio stations
Okay.
across the entire country each year. It's one of the bigger things I do. One of my favorites I've done recently, I attend a large church called Fellowship Alliance Chapel in Medford, New Jersey, and I did a mural series of the prophets, and I also did one of the series of David. And each week I would construct a 6-foot-high mural
Wow.
in Photoshop. I would do the photography, do the modeling, and put about 20 pictures together and make an image that would illustrate the whole series of David throughout beginning to end, and they would go across the whole stage. So by the end of the series, there was like a 50-foot-long mural across the whole
Oh,
stage.
wow.
It just looked pretty cool.
Wow, that's neat. And that was what you would call a graphic design, right? A visual.
That involved everything.
Right,
Graphic
okay.
design, photography,
Okay.
all kind of stuff, yeah.
What about video production? Tell us more about what you're doing in that area.
Well, I like to do, I'm getting into more small, short documentaries right now. I enjoy capturing things more on with a biblical spin to it. My wife has a website where we've done a couple things to promote her stuff, so we'll shoot different people, and always centralized around a theme. and we like to do it artistically. So it's not just your regular, one person just sits in front of a camera, but you have a lot of different views, a lot of different angles, and to just tell a short story in an artistic way. I really enjoy doing that.
Tell us a little about changes in your business. Obviously, there's been a lot of changes,
Mm.
especially from the technology, the tools that you use, and so
Mhm.
forth. Tell us a little bit about that. What have you seen over the last 10 years, which in graphic arts and photography is a long time?
Well, yeah. I mean, years ago, nothing was done on the computer. It was all done, by hand typesetting. But now the computer is pretty much taking over everything, especially with the advent of the web.
Right.
And the web changes every couple months. It's like something's changing in the web, and you have to constantly keep up on it, understand the principles involved. New programs are released every couple of months. It seems, and that costs money too.
Right.
And you have to know when to spend the money and when not to spend the money on new technology. It's very important because you can just put yourself in a hole with just trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Right.
But you're really not getting yourself anywhere
Mhm.
if you don't really know how to use it properly, or if the new technology in that program isn't benefiting you.
What's something that you could do today through this technology that you couldn't do even 5 years ago, you think?
You couldn't throw a website up for an end user to edit with like a WordPress program like you could. Everything was done, just coding, just writing code, which is cumbersome and takes forever.
Right.
And the advent of WordPress has made it very user friendly, and for both the designer and the end user to admin on their own, which is great. It saves you a lot of time, saves everybody a lot of money and effort as well. So a lot of websites now are based off of that, where that wasn't around years ago.
So you see a lot of more people being able to do it yourself. Is that what you're implying with the WordPress?
Yes, they could do it themselves, but they still need it to be set up properly and designed to look good
Right.
by a professional. But
Right.
before, they would have to do everything. The professional would have to do everything. So.
Well, that's where your eye and your skill set comes in, and where that gifting of yours is unique from everybody else.
Right.
Is it more time consuming now to get, for example, a website up than it was 10 years ago, or was all that programming just took forever?
I wouldn't say it's that much more time consuming because some things have gotten easier, but there are certain. It kind of grows in a progression where the things are different. It's just different than it was. It's not. There's other things you have to do now that you didn't have to do then. It was just so basic then, but now you have just so many options, and so many different things you can do with a website that you have to kind of steer people in the right direction and make sure that they have a focus and a goal, and that website will accomplish that goal, and that it will be right for their business, and it'll be profitable.
Right. How important is the look of the website compared to the content?
I'd say it's very important. When I go web surfing, if I see something that looks like it was done in 1994, I'm pretty much clicking off of it right away.
Yeah.
You get about a 3-second. It's about a 2 to 3 second click time is the average when people go on websites and they see it, they look and they leave. So you have to make sure it looks good and it's going to want to keep people there. Very important in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was at a seminar not too long ago where a guy put up, his company did web development, and he put up 4 different websites for 3 seconds each. And he put it up and it went black, and he said, "What does that company do?" And everybody said, "I don't know. What does this company do? I don't know. And he said, "That's the average length of time people look at it." And then he redesigned the sites and put them up again.
Right.
And as soon as you saw it, bang, you knew what it did. You knew what it did. You knew what it did. All because the layout had nothing to do. You didn't have time to read it, like
Right.
you're saying. It was all. What about? I want to just get this as a tip to entrepreneurs. What about these websites you click on and music starts playing?
Turn it off.
Does that drive you crazy or what?
I have a client, and I did one for her recently, and it loads every time.
Right.
And the lady who has to admin it, she's like, "Is this going to load up?" I said, "Yeah, well, you can turn it off if you want to." But most people don't want to hear a song.
Right.
You don't know what everybody's taste in music's going to be, for one, you
Yeah.
know. And say you're in an office and it's quiet and private, and then the song blasts out. I tend to discourage that if I can.
And this is a tip to entrepreneurs. If you turn on your website and it's playing a song immediately, or even playing a video immediately,
That's
you may-
even more annoying.
Yeah, you may want to rethink that, because people are going to see that and click off right away. They might even think it's a pop-up and think they're getting
Yeah.
spammed or something. So be careful on tips like that. Any other tips real quick on websites for business?
If you can, have somebody design it for you instead of these just free websites where you're based off of somebody else's domain. I mean, it may seem like the right thing, but you want to look as professional as you can get for a business.
Right.
You want to come off as a legit business who's there, who's permanent, and a professional design, not something that's just a click, one thing for all. It's not necessarily the right way to go, and when it comes to business, in my opinion.
Right. Let's talk about the business side of what you do. Do you find that there's uniqueness with your particular business of, graphic design, photography, and video production? Do you find there's some uniqueness to that from a business perspective, or are the nuts and bolts the same with that business and other businesses you see?
It's tough because billing people can be subjective. Not everybody's project is the same. So
Right.
when I quote a client, when I bill them out, I really have to think about it. And I try to be honest. I want to be honest with people. I'm not going to overcharge people for, some people bill by the hour, but if I'm sitting there, eating a bag of Doritos while I'm designing and doing something else, I'm not working on it. I don't like that. So I try to give people a base set fee, set charges, and charging them right fees. And customer service really matters to people. People really appreciate it when you understand them, when you have good communication, when you're organized. Those are real. I can't say enough about how important that is and how comfortable it makes a client feel when you understand them and when you're really taking care of them, and they know that you feel that they're important.
That's a good point. I mean, a lot of times people just want to churn out the invoices and get them out quick, and that's all that matters to the business. But even something as what we may look at as mundane or simple, the invoicing, especially in your business you're mentioning, could have a big impact on the relationship.
And you got to remember, they're gonna need stuff in the future. So I want to be that guy they think of in the future. So I want to leave a great impression in their mind that they can come back to me, they can use me, and they feel comfortable with me.
There you go. Well, Josh, I want to thank you so much for coming in today. We're coming up right at the end of the show, and I truly appreciate you stopping by and sharing your gifts with us and some of the insights of your business. And again, your website is?
JoshStreetDesign.com, www.joshstreetdesign.com.
Great. Thanks again. Give our regards to your wife. Hopefully we'll have her back as her business continues to grow and excel, and I'm glad to hear she's doing well. You're listening to Tandem Radio. This is the Good News on Business here every Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Bridge FM radio stations and also streaming live on tandemradio.com. We love to hear from you, especially those of you. It's always nice to get the unique emails and Facebook messages from people from outside the country, from around the U.S., and even from our region as well. So info@tandemradio.com. Feel free to reach out to us, info@tandemradio.com. Or, of course, on Facebook, just type in Tandem Radio and go to our Facebook page. Like us, hopefully, and you'll see photos there. You'll see posts, and we love to hear from you as well as you post on Facebook. And also, don't forget, at tandemradio.com, we have our archive shows, so you can see all the previous shows, and I mean literally see, because we record video-wise here in the studio, so you can see actually what we're doing and how we're doing it. And those are posted up on the website for you to check out. And also, if you have an issue or a concern that's specific to your business, look at the title themes and see which one may relate to that business issue. You can click it on and check it out, and maybe there's an expert there that can help you. But in general, we'd love to hear from you. We want to wish you all of God's blessings and pray that you will constantly seek God in all that you will do, especially your business, where I know He can help you so much. So keep in mind, His Scripture's there for you, He's there for you, and He wants to hear from you and be in every aspect of your life, no matter what you happen to be doing. This is Glenn DeLakian, your host, again, here every Saturday morning at the Bridge FM at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, here with Tandem Radio, the good news on business.